Welcome to our pronoun workshop. Today, we're diving into a critical topic that fosters inclusivity and belonging in our workplaces. A topic that, with clear understanding of why this is actually important in the workplace, will lead to increased market reach and revenue, enhanced cultural competence, competitive advantage, legal and regulatory compliance, and it reduces the risk of missing out on talent. The workplace is not an environment where people get to choose their colleagues or the markets that they need to capture. When someone is hired, they're hired because they have a skill, talent, and capability to help the business succeed. Everyone hired into a company has value, which means that developing employees to see that values in their peers and in their reports is crucial. When organizations go wrong, that's when they mistake the impact of culture and diverse identities, perspectives, and personalities. That's why watching this pronoun workshop is so crucial for you and your employees. This is an invitation to understand, be a stand, and create a work environment where everyone can belong. Please note that this presentation is the intellectual property of Andrea Carter. It falls under full copyright laws and is not meant to be copied, reprinted, reproduced, or reused in any form or means without official permission. Any unauthorized use is strictly prohibited. Hi, everyone. Thanks for joining us. I'm Andrea Carter, and my pronouns are she, her, hers. For those who don't know me, I'm a neuroscience based equity, diversity, inclusion, and belonging expert with a master's in industrial and organizational psychology. I'm a global award winning researcher in the field of belonging in the workplace, with publications in belonging, building community and culture remotely, intersectionality, and intersectional statistical analysis in the workplace. Today, I'll share with you the research that puts workplace belonging in context with pronouns and the importance of diverse people in your organization. It will connect business objectives with the consequences of ignoring diverse markets and employees. The workshop is actually divided into four parts. So, part one are pronouns, history, and equal employment opportunity. The second part is understanding pronouns and supporting the LGBTQIA plus community. The third part is how to use pronouns and what to do if you've made a mistake or misgendered someone. The fourth is exercises to practice pronouns, which is a neuroscience based, research validated, belonging first approach to practicing pronouns and creating environments where all employees can belong. This series is created to invite people to learn, to understand, and to create work environments where everyone can thrive. So let's begin. The workplace is witnessing a significant increase in the presence and visibility of non-conforming identities, including transgender, genderqueer, and non-binary individuals. When we ask this question, why are pronouns important? This initial piece really helps to shift and drive the broader element, which is happening because of societal acceptance and legal protections, as well as a growing recognition of the value of diverse perspectives and people and enabling them to belong in all business settings. A study by the Human Rights Campaign highlights that many employers, are making strides in adopting inclusive policies, but challenges remain. Transgender and gender nonconforming employees often face discrimination, harassment, and isolation, which adversely impact their mental health and job performance. Data from the United States Transgender Survey reveals that a substantial percentage of transgender and gender nonconforming individuals have experienced job related discrimination, including being denied employment or promotions due to their gender identity. The importance of pronouns in the workplace is that pronouns are a crucial aspect of respecting and acknowledging individuals' gender identities. Using correct pronouns fosters an inclusive and supportive environment, signaling that the workplace is a safe space for all employees. Misusing or ignoring someone's pronouns can lead to feelings of invalidation, disrespect, and a perception of unethical or unethical behavior that contributes to a hostile work environment. Inclusive practices such as sharing and respecting pronouns are essential for creating cultures of acceptance and belonging. Additionally, understanding pronouns and why the use of pronouns are important is actually part of aligning with equal employment opportunity and anti-discrimination laws. The consequences of ignoring the non-conforming community organizations that fail to support and include non-conforming identities risk several negative outcomes. The first is increased turnover and reduced employee engagement, because employees who do not feel respected or safe are more likely to leave their jobs, resulting in higher turnover rates and increased associated cost. Additionally, these employees may become disengaged, reducing overall productivity. From a legal and reputational risk, ignoring the needs of transgender and gender nonconforming employees can lead to legal repercussions under anti-discrimination laws. These laws are global, and while different countries have varying degrees of equal employment opportunity laws, they are practiced globally. Additionally, organizations with human rights infringements may suffer reputational damage, which can affect their ability to attract talent and customers. There's also the question of loss of innovation and diversity of thought, because a diverse and inclusive workplace benefits from a wide range of perspectives and experiences. These drive innovation and creativity, and by excluding transgender and gender nonconforming individuals, companies miss out on these valuable contributions. To build a truly engaged culture that thrives, it's important for organizations to develop employees that know how to support transgender and gender nonconforming employees, provide education and training on gender diversity, and actively promote a culture of respect and inclusion. It's important to also understand that global data supports this shift. So, despite any personal bias or beliefs, the data actually shows by a 2-to-1 margin, Americans, Canadians, EU, and Britons, 25 years and younger, prioritize protecting underrepresented groups from hate speech by defending um, those who are marginalized, according to the Higher Education Policy Institute report produced in 2024. The research by Higher Education Policy Institute was conducted in 2000, 2016, and again in 2023. In 2000, 70% of participants supported the defense of free speech over protecting others from hate speech. In 2016, the division between free speech and hate speech were equal. In 2023, 67% of participants support the protection of others from hate speech over the defense of free speech. Additionally, as Gen Z and millennials gain numbers in the workplace, influence and power within the workforce, our language and workplace norms are changing. The future of workplace values and culture, where you are promoting an equal, multicultural, and inclusive story, demonstrates higher innovation, business returns, and engagement. We're also now seeing where advocates and allies will also leave workplaces due to a manager's inability to understand the needs of underrepresented employees. To be clear, the research also demonstrates a high employee retention correlation of all employees when underrepresented, including transgender and gender nonconforming individuals, feel they belong within their workplaces. Laws in North America, South America, and the European Union, as well as the UK, all participate in forms of human right protections and equal employment opportunities. The EU, for example, indicates that by 2030, at least 60% of all adults should be participating in training every year to ensure that people with the right skills are given equal opportunities. In North and South America, federal laws prohibit workplace discrimination and harassment of specific underrepresented groups. All of these apply to transgender and gender nonconforming employees, despite any personal bias or beliefs. As we progress with learning and you discover the positive benefits of belonging cultures, you'll also begin to recognize the subtle forms of discrimination and harassment. In fact, we're going to cover them together just to make sure that they're clear. For the purpose of today's workshop, we'll stick to high-level elements and progress with further training in belonging later. So, what do you think discrimination in the workplace looks like specifically for the LGBTQIA plus community, including transgender and gender nonconforming identity and gender expressions? Take a moment and think to yourself what you may have seen or experienced in the workplace. To help you understand this from a really basic perspective, there's a huge difference between a fitting in workplace culture and a belonging workplace culture. In a fitting in culture, someone who is heteronormative, meaning a person whose heterosexuality or gender traditional roles, so male and female, are their standard and only viewpoint. Those who are heteronormative also hold the female male viewpoint that allows them to have specific privileges and entitlements because this viewpoint is larger than the smaller population. In a fitting in culture, these people will put their comfort first and are able to invalidate the experience of others and treat them as deviations from the norm. This is discrimination. In a belonging culture, someone who is heteronormative recognizes that they will have privilege and will learn and use queer affirming language, including pronouns, to make their peers feel comfortable. This includes validating that everyone has the right to opportunities and to thrive in the workplace they operate in and to feel safe in the workplace they operate in. Discrimination of the LGBTQIA plus community members is any negative treatment or impact, intentional or not, because of someone's sexual orientation, gender identity, or gender expression. Discrimination will always come from people who put their own comfort above their peers or team. Discrimination involves treating people differently, denying opportunities based on their protected rights. And an example of this is refusing to promote someone, paying someone unequally or differently, or imposing unfair policy or treatments for someone's identity. Harassment is a form of discrimination, and it's also covered under the EEO laws. The difference between discrimination and harassment is that harassment always creates a hostile environment through unwanted verbal or physical contact. When it comes to people in the LGBTQIA plus community, research shows these questions to be the top verbal conducts that create hostile work environments. So let's go through them. And as we do, let's consider why this question might be considered a form of harassment. You're so brave for coming out. Who is the man woman in the relationship? You're not really bi, you're just confused. When did you decide to become gay, lesbian, or queer? You're trans, but you look so normal. What's your real name? I have a gay friend, so I understand. I don't see you as gay, I see you as a person. You're asexual, you've just not met the right person. And can you tone it down a bit? These statements listed in the image can be forms of harassment towards the LGBTQIA plus community for several reasons. Let's break down why each statement is problematic. So, you're so brave for coming out. The reason it's harassment is that while often meant as a compliment, this statement can be condescending. It implies that coming out is an extraordinary act requiring exceptional courage, which can inadvertently highlight that LGBTQIA plus identities as inherently difficult or undesirable. It can also pressure individuals who are not ready to come out to feel inadequate. The second question, who is the woman or man in the relationship? The reason this is harassment is because this question imposes heteronormative gender roles onto same sex relationships, implying that one partner must adopt a traditional male or female role. It actually dismisses the dynamics of LGBTQIA plus relationships and also impacts those who do not conform to these binary roles and can be diverse in structure and in their roles. The third, you're not just really bi, you're just confused. The reason it's a form of harassment is that this statement invalidates bisexuality and implies that bisexual individuals do not understand their own sexuality. It perpetuates the harmful stereotype that bisexuality is not a legitimate sexual orientation, but rather a phase or a state of confusion. The next one, when did you decide to become gay, lesbian, or queer? The reason it's harassment is that sexual orientation is not a choice. And suggesting it is reinforces harmful misperceptions and misconceptions. This statement undermines the experiences of LGBTQIA plus individuals and can be deeply offensive because it ignores the complexities of sexual orientation. The next one, you're trans, but you look so normal. The reason it's harassment is because the comment is offensive and implies that transgender individuals do not or should not look normal, reinforcing stigmatizing stereotypes about what transgender people should look like. It also invalidates their gender identity by suggesting that their appearance should conform to certain expectations and socially driven beliefs and values. The next one, what's your real name? The reason it's harassment is because you're asking a transgender person for their real name, often referred to as a dead name, and it's deeply, deeply disrespectful. It invalidates their gender identity and their gender expression and their chosen name, which can be integral part of their transition and part of their self-acceptance. The next comment, I have a gay friend, so I understand. The reason it's harassment is because this statement can come off as dismissive and tokenizing. Having a gay friend does not necessarily mean that you fully understand the experiences and the struggles of the LGBTQIA plus community. It minimizes the individual's experiences and reduces their identity to one single aspect, which is actually one of the things that the LGBTQIA plus community is not, and nor is any human just one single aspect of identity. I don't see you as gay, I see you as a person. The reason this is harassment is while it's seemingly positive, this comment can be problematic because it suggests that being gay is something that detracts from one's personhood. It can feel invalidating because it ignores an essential aspect of individuals' identity. You're asexual, you've just not met the right person. The reason this statement is harassment is because it invalidates asexuality by implying that asexual individuals are simply inexperienced or waiting for the right person. It disregards and minimizes their sexual orientation, which can be a fundamental part of their identity. The last one, can you tone it down a bit? The reason it's harassing is because you're telling someone to tone it down because their sexual orientation or gender expression is deeply offensive to you. It implies that their authentic self expression is inappropriate or excessive, which can be silencing and invalidating. A few slides back, I shared the difference between a fitting in workplace culture and a belonging culture. What's important to understand, and this is not my opinion, these descriptions are part of my global winning research and the publications that are already in press. Before we move into the next portion of our workshop objectives, let's just gain some simple understanding of what belonging in the workplace actually is. So, first, belonging next to food and water is the most important human need. When employees feel like they belong, they will take 75% fewer sick days, impacting overall attendance and commitment. They report higher levels of well being, reducing stress, anxiety, and depression. They report an 82% higher job satisfaction and more cohesive workplace cultures. There is greater innovation and creativity to penetrate new markets, and organizational performance metrics rise. The research I have led, starting with understanding what the brain needs to experience in order to perceive belonging, has been continued over the past 8 years. There are actually 5 indicators of belonging that you need to experience in order for you to perceive belonging in the workplace. Before I touch on these, one of the biggest elements that creates a workplace culture of belonging is who is responsible and accountable for the culture and the environment. In a fitting in environment where discrimination is often present, it is 100% the responsibility and accountability of each individual to fit into the workplace culture. No one else assumes that responsibility or that accountability. And if you don't fit in, you are often isolated, ostracized, or even fired. In a belonging culture, in a belonging culture, each employee recognizes that they have a 50-50 shared responsibility and accountability to ensure they and their peers belong in the workplace environment. This means that while comfort is one of the first indicators the brain needs to experience belonging, people in a belonging environment accept that their comfort is only 50% of the environment. That means that everyone must make room for the other person's comfort. And while you may not share the same values or beliefs, when you are in the workplace where you do not choose who you work with, belonging employees take responsibility by perceiving and seeing someone else's differences without discriminating against them. They act ethically. Taking that further, the second indicator of belonging is connection, meaning people in a belonging environment accept responsibility to get to know their peers, understand their differences, and offer empathy for unique needs. All humans have different identities that make them either more alike or less alike the people that are in their workplace. which includes men, women, and the non-conforming identities that we're about to talk about. The third indicator, contribution, indicates that there is accountability and responsibility to value the contributions of peers and direct reports. Psychological safety is the fourth indicator to feel belonging. This means ensuring that each peer and report assumes 50-50 accountability for workplace physical and psychological safety. Those who had the privilege of being in positions of power or positions of influence, where they are more like the average representation in the workplace, and who do not always understand differences, both acknowledge and reflect on how they can be more accountable for the acceptance of differences within their workplaces and their teams. The last indicator of belonging is well-being, which calls for individuals to consider and care about those they work with, ensuring that safe, supportive workplaces are driven through relationship building, trust, respect, and ethical behavior. This means authentically caring about those you work with. Next, we're going to go into part 2 of our workshop. Please join me in the next video.